Hello and welcome to this webinar of Is Your Website Vulnerable? By myself, Aqeeb Hussain. I'm going to move on to an SQL injection attack demo where I'm going to go through all the steps of how an attacker would identify SQL, how easy it is for them to do it, and then explain the attack a little bit and show the damaging uses of SQL injection with data which can be retrieved. An SQL injection attack is when an attacker accesses a website such as this, which is vulnerable to SQL queries being injected, to then extract sensitive details, which can be in the form of client information, addresses, credit card information, and they can also be login details on the website. A website like this, which you see now, this could be accessible to anyone on the internet if it's set up that way. So therefore the likeliness of such an attack is very high because the internet is accessed by millions of people and there's no way of exactly knowing who could cause an attack and who is generally interested in your site in terms of using it. So as an attacker, I want to identify some interesting parts of the website which I can try to exploit. So as an attacker, the first thing which catches my eye is the admin section. Now, the admin section is also known as administrator. An administrator, when it comes to a website, is somebody who's responsible for taking care of the entire website. They've got full control over all the content of the website. That means they can add things, they can remove things, they can monitor information, and they've essentially got access to everything which a normal user wouldn't. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to use SQL injection on the admin section, as you see it now, on this login. And I'm going to try to defeat this login without knowing any login details. Now this is possible through an SQL injection because it essentially, whatever happens within the SQL injection, it makes the login as true, which means that the login will be true and you'll have administrator access to the website without even having any valid username or password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to inject this SQL and I can see that it didn't go through. So what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to try one more option and I'm just going to try and guess the password and guess the username and see how far I get with that. So I didn't get very far at all. It seems that I can't really log in through the login box because I don't know the details, and an SQL injection doesn't exactly work that way. So now I need to confirm an SQL injection is possible on this website. So an attacker would identify such a vulnerability by adding a quotation mark to a specific part of the website, which will crash the site and generate an error message. And I'll demonstrate this as I'm going along. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to crash the site by adding a quotation mark. As an attacker, this gives me two pieces of information. This tells me that I'm able to inject SQL queries, and it also gives me the full knowledge that the website is running MySQL server. Now this means I know exactly which type of SQL queries to inject into the website to cause an attack. This may seem like an innocent error message. However, this error message confirms that an attacker can add their own SQL queries and, as I just mentioned, extract information which should be confidential. Now, the attacker would take a series of steps in order to identify different parts of the SQL database and be able to see which information will be extracted. Now the end result of this would be an extraction of sensitive information. I will now demonstrate the use of SQL injection in order to identify an available username and an available password for this website, which I can then use to my advantage. So now I'm simply going to cause an SQL injection by putting in the correct fields which I need to, and what will then happen is I will be able to view usernames and passwords which belong to this website. So as you can see at the bottom, I've identified a username as referred to as admin and a secure coded password. Now, this is a good form of security. However, if I simply Google search this secure coded password, I'll see that this secure coded password is actually P4SSW0RD. Now, the reason this was so easy to crack is because the security mechanism behind hiding this password is very outdated. Now, this would be a result of outdated website systems which haven't been updated with the correct and sufficient security measures to protect against attackers. So what I'm now going to do is I've got the credentials which I needed, or should I say the login details, and now I'm going to use those login details and I'm going to log into the website. As you can see, I now have full control of the website. I am able to cause further problems on this site, so I can delete these records, which would be pictures. Now, these pictures could essentially be blog posts which you've posted. These could be possibly even account details of your clients. So what I could do is I could essentially disable your business in terms of your website, or I could place backdoors into this website through the SQL injection and cause further damage to your organization. This is just a basic form of an SQL injection. While there are many others, SQL injection itself is known to be one of the top 10 vulnerabilities which websites are attacked with. So to protect your business from being affected by such an attack, it's important to consider what you can do to protect yourself, which I'll be covering in the next slide. So now that I've spoke about the damaging effects of SQL injection, spoken briefly about how it works and essentially demonstrated an attack, I'm now going to hand over the valuable pieces of advice which I consider to be good mitigations against SQL injection attacks. The first one being a web application firewall. Now, a web application firewall is a piece of software which attaches to your website, and it protects your website from many different kinds of attacks, which also include basic SQL injection attacks. So what you saw earlier was a basic attempt of SQL injection. There are many other types of SQL injection attacks which would be considered more complex, and those would be more focused upon more secured devices. This is more about covering the low-hanging fruit, essentially. So a device which is completely insecure, there's no security on it. This is what I demonstrated as the kind of impact it could have. However, with the web application firewall, you can mitigate against it. The second point, if you have written the website yourself as a small to medium business, it's probably a better idea to invest in a content management system. Now, there are many content management systems such as Joomla, Drupal, WordPress, and these management systems essentially create all the code needed to create a website. You're able to update the content management system, which also includes security updates, and all you need to focus on is the design of your website, the visuals of the website. You don't need to be so worried about these kind of internal vulnerabilities. And finally, I'd like to offer a vulnerability assessment to detect SQL injection. Here at the NEBRC, we're able to conduct website vulnerability assessments, and the whole point of vulnerability assessment is essentially to catch vulnerabilities, to detect them, and to report them before an attacker can essentially, first of all, detect them and then move on to exploiting them, causing some damage.